So I guess we back. Welcome to the first episode of the 2026 season of Boomer Bust, the flagship show on the channel. And so what had happened was if you follow, if you subscribe, you're part of the community, then you will know that I said pretty early on that I was just not feeling it this year. And since then, I fell completely off. I thought last year was probably one of my worst, probably outside of the COVID year, where I just refused to watch it because it just wasn't real tape. But outside of that, I thought last year was my worst year. This year, by far, my worst draft season. And worst is relative because I think I said last year that I was probably not going to be doing the draft like I've been doing since over a decade. And I also was really thinking about it. I think this season really took a lot out of me, especially with my Chicago Bears. I needed a break from football. I unplugged so hard from football, and the draft was just kind of a part of that. But I did have my good friend in the scouting world. He told me when I told him that, he was like, You picked the best year to not tap into." Um, I'm just gonna give some of my overall thoughts about draft stuff. I'm a wax poetic and yap, kind of like I did last year, and every year it seems like I do that. And we'll go from there. But honestly, so right now, what's happening is I asked a little bit ago about people like the prospects that people were interested in terms of the Bears, because that's most of the subscribers. And I'm just going to do a real quick snapshot evaluation in the community so you can see it there and ask me questions there. I'm not doing a full write up or none of that stuff. And if you're not a Bears fan that's listening and you want to know about a prospect, let me know. So, my standard operation is to roughly this year, and it was so funny because I was really systematic this year, and the most that I ever been, and didn't even use it. But what I did this year is that I stuck to people that were rated as a top 150 prospect on two of three. So oh my god, that's embarrassing. I don't really I don't know that percentage, but either way, two out of three of the sites, big boards that I look at, if you were 150, top 150 out of two of those, then, or at least out of two, then, I added you to the list and did that for all the positions. And then from there, that's roughly what I try to work with. And then I evaluate those prospects. And again, didn't do that. So then it became, all right, I'm just going to look at the top, like, 50, or not top 50. Yeah, I guess top 50 technically. I was like, I'm just going to look at the prospects that are top 50, and that didn't really go well. And then eventually I fell off, and then I went to, hey, what are the prospect Bears fans are curious about? Because last year, I think where I landed after the draft was like, I'm just going to wait until the draft is over and then break down the Bears picks. But that doesn't feel right with me. Not right now, not, this year. Even though I'm like not covering the draft, I still feel weird not knowing kind of what's going on in the draft, especially because I had already started to look into the prospects. So that's kind of my compromise. So I'll be looking at some prospects that people mentioned to me. Knock on wood. That's what I'm doing after this. I'm going to continue to kind of do some quick evaluations and post those in the community. And from there, I'll see kind of what prospects I want to look at before we get to the actual draft. But today, I spent today downloading and tapping in to all the things draft. So when I tell you I was unplugged, I was unplugged. And so today was the first time that I looked at big boards, like, the updated media big boards, not the legit ones. So I was looking at big boards, I was looking at mock drafts, I was, all those things. I was downloading all that info from the last few months and seeing what people are talking about, who they talking about, and getting an idea kind of like what this draft is. And I feel like I got a pretty good handle. And I will say this, like I've said this before, when you've done one of the two things I think that stand out when you do this work for so many years is, number one, you start to see repeated scenarios, and then number two, you start to see trends and how drafting might change and everything like that. So those are always things that I'm interested in seeing every year in terms of not just the class, but also kind of how teams are going about the draft. Now that coincides a lot with free agency and cap and like all those rules, but that ultimately impacts how you build the roster. But then also you get into certain years where the class is similar, or you get into certain situations where we've seen similar situations before, and that's the benefit of doing this for so long. But for me, man, it's crazy how similar this draft is to last year's draft. Like if they would have just not mentioned the names and they were talking, it would sound exactly the same. Now, you get the quote unquote draft experts who kind of break through the nuance, but for the most part, a lot of these sports media people, they're not draft experts and they just jump on to kind of the mainstream thought. And also, they don't really keep track of those trends and stuff like I was talking about. So you listen to them talk, and I think it's more like the last 2 years is more apparent more than ever. Now, we know how the NFL is. We know they like to make money. We know that like them making the draft, like I don't even know what you call it, but an event that changes cities and stuff. Obviously, it was an event before, but now that they changed cities and it's like a thing. We knew since that they are always going to invest in people hyping it up. But these last two drafts, I think, is more apparent than ever and blatant that people hype stuff up that doesn't need to be hyped. Like, you hear people talking so much like it's do or die, whether it's Mendoza or Simpson or whatever his name is from Alabama. And it's like, bro, we all know that this is not a great draft. So people, I'm going to stand on the table, or I declare that you have to go crazy and try to make this move. Like, we know these aren't those type of players. And so I say it all the time, every year, there's the draft game and then there's roster building. And the media is always playing to the draft game. That's what they're selling to fans and people that want to watch because it's entertaining. Like, we're going to talk about mock drafts. We're going to talk about how do you win the draft? How do you get this player? But in reality, every class is different. And you just have back-to-back classes that are super similar and two back-to-back drafts that's going to be similar. So it's kind of eerie to me, but we know how last year played out in terms of the draft. We know how it played out with the players on the field, and yet they're still trying to hype this stuff up this year like this is something different, and it's really not. To be honest, it might be slightly worse. So my thoughts, like I said, my thoughts on this draft class is very similar to last year. You just don't have a ton of game breaking talent. And I don't know I don't know when we will again. I mean, obviously, every year there's different caliber athletes and all those things, but I just don't know when we're going to have next level guys, just mostly because of how college football is right now. Not only the NIL and all the transferring, but then also the schemes. And it's a little concerning. It's been concerning for a while, but people don't realize it changes the players. Now the NFL doesn't change. I've been saying that. I've been the only one saying that forever. While everybody's like it's a passing league and everything's so different, the league has not changed. The league goes into a cyclical nature ever since a certain time, and they're going to adjust and change, or not change completely, but they're going to adjust and shift. But the basis of what the NFL does is the same. College erodes the game a lot. And so I don't know, outside of maybe quarterbacks, when we're going to have those game breaking elite prospects. But either way, the last 2 years have been a little concerning. Either way, no elite talent. You got one quarterback that everybody believes is not the best prospect in any normal draft, but clearly the best prospect in this draft. So that's kind of locked up at number one. Then you got a second quarterback that everybody's trying to force into the conversation that may or may not happen. Now, last year you had two of those, three maybe, but this year it's just two. And then you got a lot of tackles with questions and a ton of receivers. And by the way, let me just repeat again that the receiving market the bubble's gonna burst. I keep telling people this, and I hear all these analysts talking about how how valuable it is to get a young receiver because the money costs so much. That's literally how bubbles burst. And then you get into a situation like this year, which honestly wasn't too dissimilar last year, where it's like, oh, wow, we go like 20 some deep with receivers. Now, last year, people didn't feel like there was no over the top, level receiver, even though Tet was clearly going to be a monster, and then he was. But still, this year, you could say it's even better. And if people feel like you got 25 deep in a receiver class, like, what do you think's going to happen? Like, maybe the people at the top continue to push it a little bit, or not a little bit, they'll continue to push, but you're going to create a valley where there's a handful of elite, and then you're going to have everybody else making either nothing or being a rookie. And that's what's happening with quarterbacks now. You see it. Everybody kept talking to court. Oh, it's just gonna keep going up. It does. Trevor Lawrence didn't show nothing. Herbert didn't show nothing. Tua didn't show nothing. People want to say Burrow didn't show nothing. They're gonna get contracts. Yeah. And then they started to be like, yeah, well, no, we're gonna structure these contracts to get out of them, or we're gonna cut these players. The bubble's going to burst on the receivers because there's way too many receivers that come out every year. So anyway, so a lot of good receivers, none great. And then I think I already mentioned maybe, but tackles with questions, a lot of edge rushers with questions, some tweeners who are athletic and they're the quote unquote top prospects, but at the same time, they still have questions. So very similar group. Corners that are not elite and maybe have injury histories. So it's interesting to hear, again, people talk about this draft, and it sounds so similar to last year. So what you get, what we said last year and what everybody's been saying, what you get in these type of drafts is potential for a lot of movement. Now, Do I think there's going to be trades? Yes. I don't think it will go crazy. I think last year didn't go as crazy as I thought in the first round. Now the rest of the draft is going to be very active, but first round, I don't know that's going to go crazy, but there will be some trades. I think though, from my point of view, if there's a bunch of prospects that we don't agree on as a league, you're going to lock into the one that you like, which naturally people would assume leads to a lot of trades. However, let's just say, who do I want to pick? Let's say, I'm trying to think somebody that's middle of the pack. Let's just say Proctor, who I think he's easily the best tackle. But let's just say Proctor. So people are all over the place on Proctor. There's some people have said clearly the best tackle, how I feel. There's some people that's like, back of the first round, whatever, too much of a risk. So let's just say I'm like, yeah, I don't even like these other guys. I don't like the question marks around them. Proctor is my guy. That's going to embolden me to make a trade to make sure that I get him because I don't like the alternatives. However, I think Proctor's up there, but most teams probably would say, I think he's the best in this draft, but overall, like in a vacuum, not in vacuum, but in the grand scheme, I don't think he would be like my favorite tackle. So like in that case, yes, I really want to get him specifically, but his overall grade isn't super high. He's just high because of the supply and demand of this year. So that's why some teams will pull the trigger, but not all teams. And I think that's how people felt last year, where it was like everybody's got their guy and everybody's going to be trading to get their guy. While, yes, everyone has their guy, but not everybody traded because not everybody felt their guy was that important to go get. You know what I mean? So I guess the way I should have said it, if I think Proctor is a C plus and everybody else is a D minus, like, yeah, I want the C plus. But if I don't get the C plus, I'm okay because it's just a C plus. That's the easiest way to say it. And so that's how this draft is shaping up as well. And we'll see. I mean, like, yeah, there's athletes that are clear cut above. But as with any draft, you got injury questions, you got measurable questions. And while the league is much more on measurables than I am, they take that stuff seriously. So I don't know, man. I don't know. And the D line, to me, honestly, is forever going to be messed up. Not the edges, but everybody else. Because you're going to get legit edge players. That's just going to happen. But everybody else, no matter how legit you are, you're in this world, and I've been saying it for years. And now we're here. You're living in this world of college football where they just have this big blob of amoeba defense rotating 8 to 9 guys. And really, it's mostly because of NIL. Because they're trying to get guys playing time to reach obligations in the contracts or to prevent people from transferring. Just is no different if you play the NCAA game or whatever they call it, college football. Like you got guys with promises for a certain amount of snaps on the D line. Oh, we're going to rotate you in. Why not? And so the problem is the development is thrown way out of whack. So now, obviously the Bears are interested in D-line. Fans are interested in D-line. And so I get most of the requests are D-line. And I'm watching these guys and, the issues are on the tape. And there's a reason none of these guys are top 10 prospects. Even though there's no year that I've seen where D tackles athleticism went backwards as a group. It's always going forward. or D line in general, interior, 3-4 DNs, whatever. Like pure D linemen, like even edge rushers. It never goes backward, it goes forward. So why are these guys not considered top 10 picks? Why outside of Mason Graham, I guess, why last year weren't we looking at a bunch of top level D lines? Just the development is not there. And on top of that, even if you're somebody with a lot of playing time, you're not playing in anything close to the defenses you'll be playing in the NFL. So there's a huge learning curve, very similar to what quarterbacks and offensive linemen went through with the spread offense. Like before the power spread and all that, and you had pure spread, prospects were falling off because they didn't know how to pull. They didn't know how to pass protect for more than a second. They didn't know how to do nothing but cut block and get in somebody's way. And so that had to change. And eventually we got better because we went through a drought of tackle prospects. Even though they were athletic as they've ever been, they were not good prospects. And I think we're starting to see that with the D line too. So anyway, not a lot of options, man. I mean, in the top 50, there's honestly probably not more than 20, 15 first round caliber players from just, kind of what I know about them and what I've seen. And that makes for a rough draft because we got 7 rounds. And I think every year for last 10 years or so, late rounds there, or day 3, there's a lot of movement. But yeah, for sure, after the first round, there's gonna be a lot of moving and grooving. But that first night, I don't know exactly what's gonna happen. But if I'm a team in this draft, I think same as some people said last year, you really want to get the best talent, like physical talent and physical traits, regardless of injury. So like Tate, I believe, from the receiver from Arizona State, that's a great example. Even if he's coming off injury, whatever those questions, I want to invest in some type of high end talent. And honestly, that's whether you are a team in contention or a rebuilding team. A great example last year was the Eagles with Jihad Campbell. And a lot of people think like, oh, you got so much talent, your roster doesn't have a lot of holes, so you can do that. And obviously we saw that wasn't the case with the Eagles. But really what it is no, I want to invest in talent because our upside, because there's just not really a lot of actual football players here. And so if I get a guy like Tate and I'm like, wait, no, it's Cardinal Tate, is Tyson, the one from Arizona State, my bad. But if I get a guy like him, because a lot of people talk about the Rams or whatever, and you end up being more further along and healthier than I thought, then we could obviously coach you up and get you primed and ready. But if your timeline's quicker, okay, cool. Then we get you out there and now, you're a plus. If you aren't 100% ready and, we got to take time, again, we have more time to work with you, get you primed, let you understand, really get a good transition into the offense. And then if Puka is not available or he goes down or Devontae goes down, now we got some talent that we've been building up. And if everything goes smoothly, then we won't even need you till next year. So and that's the same to me as a team that is rebuilding. I want to have talent in the building. And I don't have really a pressure to put you out there. So like the Dolphins, they got a new coach. We know what the situation is there. If I get a guy like the Tennessee corner and even though he ran his 40 and the 4.3s, but for whatever reason, if I feel like, hey, we don't need to rush you out there, we can give you a good transition. We know we got that talent on the roster for when we're ready to go. So that's what you want to do in this type of draft. Or you want to trade back and collect assets, which we know at this point, that's kind of the thing every year. It's like trade back and collect assets. More of an NBA mentality, but that's kind of, I mean, the owners want to move to that. They want to be able to trade picks further down in years. So I think people want that NBA mentality where they could package together huge trades. And so the trading back is always kind of appealing to a lot of people. But in these type of drafts, for real, you want to go ahead and do that. And so as far as sleepers, I don't know, man. Obviously, there's always going to be sleepers. There's always going to be players that are drafted into situations to fill a certain role. Speaking of Puka, but that's all about the coaching. I saw people talking about Nick Imawari earlier today, and like I still don't understand what happened. What happened is his tape was terrible. Everybody who loves the revisionist history, everybody loves the hindsight. He was not. I wouldn't say he was a great prospect, but he wasn't perfect, and his tape was bad. And everything about what you heard about him as a football player was bad. But you got a team that knew exactly the role they wanted him to play, and they knew how to coach him, and that maximized the talent. But then people look backwards and be like, oh, he came out ready to do that. No, he didn't. It's about the team. And so you're going to have some guys like that this year, but I'm not deep enough in the draft to sit here and point them out. And it's going to be different for every team. So it's just one of them drafts where people really got to do their homework. But again, people will fall in love with their certain guys. And that's why we will have so much movement more than likely on day 2 and 3. So, yeah, I'm not super excited. I mean, I'm excited more now that I kind of know what's going on, but not super excited. I don't know, man. It used to be a time, and not everybody panned out, but it used to be a time where the very first thing that I did for draft season was watch like the top 10, 15 prospects. And every year you saw some legit like future all pro talent. I don't feel like that this no more. There's a lot of positional forcing going on. Obviously, quarterback, they've been doing that for a while. But even when I started, they didn't do that with quarterbacks. You know, everybody talks about Aaron Rodgers and him falling. Like I was there. I've been there. I was there. I saw those drafts where, you know, running backs was going top 5 and quarterbacks was sliding. But we're not there no more. People force the quarterback thing, but it's starting to happen with other positions too. And so I just think a lot of these people that end up at the top is kind of artificial. It's not really based on tape, but you know, it is what it is. One person that I'll just say that there's a couple, but one that I really am looking forward to watching is Arvell Reese. Because I've been saying for a while, these tweeners, they don't got a good track record. They really don't. So I have to see what type of player we working with, what he might fit best, because where he goes is going to determine his career. Point blank, period. And so I'll be curious to see. But, you know, things change over the draft season, but starting out, everybody was just, oh no, hands down, this is like the best player in the draft. And that's kind of changed, but I'm looking forward to seeing for myself. So I think that's it, man. I think that's it. I don't know why, man. I don't know why I'm falling off the draft, but I will say, like, hands down, and I've said this before, and it just continues to be true every year, I'm pretty fast with evaluations. And even though if I'm doing a process, I'll do my due diligence. I'll try to watch as many games are available. But truth be told, I'm pretty good, especially if which rarely, but if I have some all 22, I'm pretty good with one game. And even then, just as an evaluation, like as like a data person, I wouldn't rely on that because I want to see you against competition, non-competition, but still, I'm pretty fast with it. Now, that doesn't equal accuracy, even though I would probably say my accuracy is pretty good, but my claim is I'm pretty fast with knowing what type of player is what. And as I always say, everybody has their position of expertise. So that might not be as true, mostly because of the camera stuff, but it might not be as true with D backs. But I'm telling you, quarterbacks, linemen, all that. I clock that real fast these days, and it's one thing I was learning going through some evaluations this year. So anyway, that's it for me. Go down comment section. Let me know what you think about this draft. Any questions you got? Share around, get the convo started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for listening.